Oh, man, I drank a coffee with 2% milk, and now my mouth is...
Imagine if it had been whole milk.
I would just basically sound like
Whole
if somebody
milk.
kicked Jabba the Hutt in the stomach. The sound the foot would make, not Jabba. Jake,
Hey, Sean.
what if I told you that I wanted your opinion on something?
All right.
All right. So here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
I would like you, if you're okay with it, to fill out a short online survey that would allow our podcast and the people who help us get advertisements for our podcast to get the right ones for the podcast.
Oh, where should I go? For the survey? What is it?
So if you were to go online to www.podsurvey.com/thumbs and take the survey, first off, you're going to help out the podcast. And secondly, you're going to be entered into a raffle for a $100 Amazon gift card every month. And you only get an email if you win. They're not going to do anything with your email address. There's no spam, nothing.
That's good.
You can do that right now.
I can go to
I might even do this.
podsurvey.com.
You were listening. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Chris, you can do it too.
It sounds like a thing I should probably
We
do.
actually probably shouldn't do it because then we would be stuffing the
Stuff
ballot
the
box.
ballots. That's right. That's true.
But if you are listening to this podcast and would like to help us out and the guys who sell ads for us, please fill out the survey. They would appreciate it, and so would we. Thanks.
Video game.
And now...
Make him say, pod, cat. When I say pod, you say cast. Pod.
I've heard that it's June
11th.
No.
It's coming out tomorrow, brother.
Yeah, today's the 9th, my friend.
Today's the 10th. I'll bet you $100.
What? I'm on the wrong notes page. I'm not on a new note. It's June 11th, 2014.
This is Idle Thumbs 162. I'm Chris Remo.
Nice.
I
I'm Jake
almost forgot
Rodkin.
who I was.
Yeah.
And I'm Sean Vanneman.
E3 addled your brain.
I know.
It didn't.
So many exclusives.
Do people say exclusives now?
Is that a
I
thing?
don't fucking know.
Apostrophe exclusive?
I mean, they definitely say exclusive a lot, and I don't think anyone knows what that word means anymore. I feel like people are like just torturing the meaning of the word exclusive so far to the point that it's just the thing you say when there's a game on your system now. You just have to find the like
Yeah.
adjectives or adverbs.
Well, I see
it's
what
a
you're saying.
time
I thought you meant,
exclusive.
like, from a
it's a
press
console
exclusive.
exclusive.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, well, that's still that. Too,
That's still
is
that's the
also-
more bullshit.
At this
one
point, it
because
usually
it's
just
so
means
ubiquitous,
one
right?
other person is excluded. And
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true. if any other systems
we have a
are
console
excluded, and not only
Yeah,
permanently,
it's a console exclusion is actually the correct deal.
and not even permanently, but just for some amount of time.
Right.
There's some amount of time where at least one platform will not get this game. Maybe exclusive.
One person is they are the exclusive system to not feature that game.
Right.
It's like going out with somebody
Yeah.
so they didn't go out with somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, look, you just can't go out with Brian for like 8 months.
For these limited
Anyone
exclusive
else?
dates.
Fair game.
Yeah,
Fine.
yeah, whatever. No, that guy's fine. Whatever.
Yeah. For these exclusive 30 weeks, PlayStation owners have the exclusive privilege of not experiencing this video game.
I don't even pay attention to that stuff, actually. I think.
A lot of people do, though. I mean,
Well, that
that's one
must
of the
be
things.
obviously
that's,
because you pick your pony and you spend your $500 and you
Yeah.
buy a
Yeah,
console.
like,
But it's
it's
kind
window
of-
of excitement maps to that stuff. You know?
I guess it's because I don't know. Like, I haven't picked one of those consoles yet, so it's just sort of me. It's
No,
like,
I
when is
haven't-
there going to be enough of them where I'll just buy
so
the PS4?
I haven't either, but the
whatever.
reason I noticed this is because I play everything on PC.
Well, you're
and
effectively
at
like
these-
the Netflix streaming customer of the games world at this point. Where you're like, eventually I'll get it, and
Yeah, that's
probably
not-
for less
No, you're
money.
like the
Even
Lothario
even
side
that is
piece
not
that the
even
girl's
true.
allowed to
These
date.
days, a lot of them come out on PC the same day as they do on whatever the anointed console is for that game.
Right.
They just never mention it during the press conference, so a lot of people assume it's not happening. It's really obnoxious.
You are. You're just like the smooth guy at the party who's just like, well, she can't date Brian, but obviously she can sleep with me. Guys, look at me. Everybody does first day, no matter what, no matter who you pick.
Yeah. That's just like a rite of passage.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just sort of like, well, yeah, like, you're like everybody's exception.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Or
Where it's like the card from the...
I only love Sean.
But I mean, obviously,
also Chris,
Chris, obviously.
You know, please.
Like, I mean, Chris Remo, obviously. I mean, it's not even... It's like... Sorry. I'm just thinking about those exclusivity talks. Like, from, like, the development side.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Where... It's like, look, we know you're going to be with Chris. Like, that's fine.
The language around it is I mean, it's the same as it ever was, but having it come around again at E3, like, the two things at E3 that I, at least in all the conference streams, which is all that we've watched, because we're obviously not at E3, but the two things that stood out the most for me as one could predict are Ori on the Xbox One and the Grim Fandango, whatever is going on with that, the Double Fine and Sony announced. Spoiler,
the Grim Fandango thing, I have to assume is another case where that's
right, but
going to end up on PC.
Both of those, like Sony's like, and we're bringing Grim Fandango to the PlayStation 4
and Vita.
And the Vita. And then on the internet, it was like PlayStation 4, Vita, additional consoles, including PC, to be announced. And with Ori, it was like exclusively only on Xbox One. Also, Xbox 360 and PC are like, at least like, that was like the first IGN or Eurogamer report or something. It's like, just...
It's incredibly obnoxious. It's this weird, like, sort of mutually agreed upon delusion that everyone just engages in.
But everyone gets mad about it, too. Or like, what do you mean it's only... Like, Schaefer got just, like, boiled alive on Twitter for, like, 3 seconds with, like, abandoning your roots. Like, no, I'm
that's not those people's fault. These companies spend millions of dollars so they get to make these claims.
I'm not saying it's those people's fault. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. It is ridiculous.
Maybe you could reread Schaefer's second tweet seconds after the first one, saying additional platforms to be discussed very soon. But
what if you don't happen to follow that guy? You know what I mean? I don't know. There's like a million.
I guess I shouldn't expect people to be of a level of awareness and courtesy that they will follow someone on Twitter and read what they write before they send replies to them telling them that they've made horrible decisions. I guess that's true. I shouldn't expect that of anyone.
I'm just saying, well, okay, I'm not saying that's like, that I approve of people screaming at people over Twitter for things that they haven't informed themselves about. I'm not saying that.
Sure.
I'm just saying that these press conferences wouldn't exist if the people running them weren't deliberately trying to make people believe certain things.
All right. I mean, well, yes, it's... Yeah. I mean... I think that, I mean, what all of this ends up actually coming down to, though, is that just from Sony and Microsoft's perspective, they don't really consider the Steam audience as crossover customers. So, like, people who have Steam, I don't think they're just not being considered in any way when they talk about any of the exclusive stuff, because all they care about is which console does someone buy in Best Buy, right?
I know that Sony and Microsoft care about that. I understand why they do it this way.
Right.
I still think it's stupid because I think realistically a lot of the people actually watching this stuff do also have Steam, and you know what I mean, like that you're right that's how Sony and Microsoft think about it, but like from a consumer standpoint that's becoming increasingly irrelevant. Like it, you know, years ago it was the case that you had essentially PC gamers and console gamers, and it was the like Venn diagram overlap was fairly small, but I don't think that's the case nearly as much anymore.
I wonder what the data is on people who own one of the consoles and are like active Steam.
Is that a
players?
thing Steam asks in the hardware survey?
I don't think so,
No,
but like, I mean, this is like me, like
ask.
just wondering, like, let's say you buy 10 games a year on Steam. It's a pretty active Steam user, probably. Maybe like 6 to 10.
Sure.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And you own a console. If a game comes out on both, like, where do you get it? You know, like I wonder what
probably for a lot of people depends
the actual
on the game.
data. Yeah, of course. I mean, the design of the game probably matters. Like, obviously, you wouldn't buy a strategy game or something, on a console. But like, I mean, there are games that are like sit right in the middle. Like a BioShock's probably a good example. I mean, there are obviously people who are really like, I prefer the mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, I bet it still depends on like where you come from.
I just wonder what the actual like. If
I totally want.
You know, the actual
I would be
number
fascinated
is
to know.
Because the next thought I had was, wouldn't it be crazy if? Because like Sony and Valve have talked once, like And
With
we
the
know
portals,
now,
Steam
and
stuff.
we know now that you basically don't need, like, you need just a functioning computing device to do Steam in-home streaming.
Yeah.
And like, well, wouldn't it be interesting if you could Steam stream to your PlayStation 4?
Right. Was it,
Like,
yeah. That's
you know
not going
what I
to. The
mean?
reason that's not going to happen now. Just, and I know you're talking just like as in hypothetical terms, but like Sony announced their own remote stream.
Oh, they have
because
the
they bought
PlayStation
Gaikai, I
TV
guess, is
thing.
it, or did they buy OnLive? They bought one of them.
Yeah, but it's the PS4 TV thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, we talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
But it looks like there are obviously more details about it at E3 because it came up at E3. But those things aren't necessarily mutually
They're
exclusive.
not necessarily, but I think that once you have multiple of those, the messaging becomes really confusing.
Yeah, it does. It's almost like one of those things where, like, the thing is, though, it's one of those features that you could, like, build into the hardware as just, like, an app. Like, the way, like, you and I have Plex that
Right,
runs on
Steam
our
streaming
shit.
could effectively be a thing you download from the PlayStation Store,
That's
but you
true,
only really
yeah,
get to
yeah.
it if you know to search for Steam streaming.
And, like, people who are PC gamers, that would be a big fucking deal for.
Well, it's like you can download the Amazon Video app on your iPhone, and you can watch your Amazon Video library on your iPhone.
Yeah.
But Apple doesn't talk about that existing; they just
Right.
allow it because they know that customers want it, and you know.
Yeah, consoles are still like a few degrees away from, I think, even a
agree.
It actually feels like
yeah.
PS3 era Sony would have been more likely to allow that on their system than PS4 era Sony.
Yeah, I agree.
Probably so.
It feels like as
But
Sony's
they're already
success
sort of
in getting their
like-
shit together like, gets cinched up more,
that
they're
happens.
now...
It's funny how that
Yeah.
happens every other generation. Like every
Like
generation,
the,
those
the,
flip.
the sine
you
wave
know?
of console hubris, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I was only kind of exploring that as like, it's not really, I guess, a very like exciting mental exercise. But because they ignore that as like you said, it's like there's a sort of like this blinder to the Steam, like the PC audience that if you remove that blinder, you could probably make it a pretty hearty competitive advantage, and it wouldn't ever dip into like your. I don't know. I don't actually believe it would dip into your software.
Right,
sales.
I see what you're saying. So
You know
if,
what I mean?
if you're saying like realistically, the people who own a PS4 and Steam like are not cannibalizing PS4 sales or PS4 game sales,
Right.
If that's the case, then this theoretical situation would just be additive for Sony because it would just be like one more tick on the Pro box
Right.
on
Also,
PS4.
for
Like there's
versus
no
Xbox
reality
One.
where that.
It's
Yeah.
it's more hours that a PlayStation 4 owner would be sitting in front of the dashboard for a PlayStation 4, even if it's just to tick
Right.
through to the Steam window.
Exactly.
They have to scroll
Yeah.
past the fucking store window.
Like if that
to
app,
get
if that
to
app set three
right, exactly.
three
So you're like,
things down
what's
the
in your disk drive,
down the
what's on your
dashboard,
PSN library, what's in
you'd
the
stop
store,
and be like,
Steam
"Oh, what's
streaming."
this?" You
Yeah.
know, like that's I don't know.
That's how they get you.
Well, because like it just seems like Steam in-home streaming is just like you run the software on any piece of hardware that outputs to your monitor, and it's going to be okay if it has a good internet.
Well, you said you
connection.
tried it, right, Sean?
No, I want to. I have not set it up.
okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I've been deep into like watching it being tried on the internet.
Got it.
It seems fine. Well, like I like have a
You
whole
watch streams
situation.
of Steam streams.
Yeah.
Oh, the Steam stream.
Like I know how I'm going to do it because I was about to do it, and then I was playing. Actually, we can talk about a video game for a second. I'd probably rather talk about E3. We'll come back to video.
Go ahead. Whatever.
But I was playing Rocksmith, and I was going to do it on my big TV, and I was running it off my laptop. And then I was like, oh, I should just run this on my PC and Steam stream it. But it was running fine on my laptop, so I just plugged my laptop into my TV with HDMI, and it was great. Yeah, that game's fucking good. I mean,
So
it's not good the way like Mario Kart is. Good
You're
or
into
whatever.
Rocksmith though.
Yeah, but I'm also just trying to learn the guitar. Like I play like an hour of
I
guitar.
mean, do you
every
want to
day.
actually just give the top line rundown of what Rocksmith is for people who don't know?
Yeah, it's basically Guitar Hero, but you can use a regular guitar, and
You have
plu-
to, right?
You have to use
Yeah,
a regular guitar.
yeah,
right?
you have to use a regular guitar. Yeah, so you plug an electric guitar in with like your basic like, was that a 1/4-inch cable or what is that?
Quarter-inch to MIDI.
Yeah,
It's
it goes 1/4 inch to USB
MIDI, yeah.
into your console or to your PC, and the software
Maybe
just
it's not MIDI. Maybe it's
recognizes
I'm
some
sure it's
other
just listening
format
for
that they're
notes,
using.
right?
Well, I know, but I'm wondering if it converts it into MIDI data on the other end.
I have no idea.
Like it's,
But like it's like completely opaque. Like literally I turned on Rocksmith, I plugged in the cable, I plugged in my guitar, and it said calibrate your guitar, and I like strummed some shit, and that was it. And like I tuned it with their like, which the tuner's a little finicky, and I don't know if it's my guitar or if it's
that's
the
common
software.
with
Yeah.
tuning electric guitars.
Yeah, but and it just went. There was no sort of like there was no layer of like into like the software calibration.
Yeah.
Everything was
That's
all.
awesome.
It was like it was.
I bought that
easy as
cable. I
anything.
just haven't tried
That's
it
at
yet.
my house.
Yeah.
The cable that you purchased. That's why I'm playing it. I'll bring it back. I'm sorry,
Thanks.
but it's awesome. It's really good. It's fucking hard.
Man, playing that over a Steam stream.
That's why I didn't do it.
It would be
yeah.
the ultimate show of how much lag there is because you're like,
Yeah, it's already feels like laggy because I'm so.
like, God damn it!
Well, it's already like that because I'm bad. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
I just don't have.
But then you could blame
rhythm
the
skills
stream
yet.
for why you're bad. Think about that.
I know that would be. The
I
worst.
thought you were Jake. I thought you were proposing streaming it like over Twitch or something.
No.
The first second you said that, I thought you were like,
Watch me teach myself
Yeah.
guitar.
Well, that's the hardest thing to sort of get your
Bonk.
head around because like you're using this like relatively like like with a Guitar Hero guitar, you're either pressing the button or you're not. But with a guitar,
with a fret, it's
with a fret, you're like, is that right? Is that sound good? I don't know. Like I'm missing this one thing every single time. And now I'm starting to wonder if it's just because my guitar is out of tune and then like, oh, I got it, but like I didn't do anything different. Like that's the tricky
tiny
thing.
imperfections
But-
in the skin.
Exactly right. Yeah. It's good though. It's
You
really
guys need to have like a music education jam session where you're plugged into Rocksmith and we eBay Chris a copy of the Miracle Piano System for the Nintendo.
What?
What? You don't know that thing?
No.
You buy a piano, like it was an electric keyboard that you bought from this company called Miracle, but the plug coming out of the back of it was an NES controller jack.
Oh shit.
You'd plug that into a Nintendo, put the Miracle cartridge in, and it would... I mean, I'm sure it was just MIDI over Nintendo. It probably actually is. It's probably their own proprietary thing. But yeah, it would have a keyboard up on screen, and it was like probably the worst piano teacher in the world, because I think it would just be like, press these notes. You've pressed them. Like, you don't need to know what you're doing, but you can now play like a bad for Elise or something.
Right.
Like,
yeah. But like it also, I mean, they have like lots of like 1080p. They do these like teaching sessions where it's like 3 minutes of video, 3 minutes of like actually like playing notes on a like flying out at you on the screen, and then back to video, and then it just sort of builds on those skills. So you learn stuff that I didn't know how to do before then, and it's pretty good. Like the problem is I'm also playing like acoustically on my own, trying to learn, and I kind of just like being able to like it's less like I'm less anxious, you know, because I'm sitting there trying to
prefer
be
your
right.
guitar playing, your guitar learning not be gamified?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, like it being gamified gives you anxiety, and you just have to sit really. Yeah.
I didn't mean to totally shit talk the Miracle Piano System, by the way. I have no idea if that thing actually teaches you real piano when you get to a certain point. I had a friend who had one, and I just...
Hopefully one of the developers of the Miracle Piano System listens to
it
Idle
teaches
Thumbs.
you basic music theory. Like, it probably does.
Well, that's the big thing about Rocksmith is they promote it as like you can just become a guitar player with this game. I don't know if that's true yet or not, but they're big in telling you that it is. Like if you go to their website, there's this like Rocksmith 60-day challenge where there's just like 15 videos of people who they made play Rocksmith for over an hour a day for 60 days in a row, and then by the end they're like fucking decent actually, which is impressive. Yeah. But it's really
I believe
cool.
it. I mean,
Fucking
anything
good.
that like gets you to actually just practice a thing for that long, like if you can stick to it, it's gonna make you better.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Unless it's actively hard, you know. Unless
It
it's
physically makes me hate
actively
myself
shitty.
though, because like I like look at my hands and I'm like, these fucking just hooves, like just be a fucking thing that works.
Yeah, I know.
Why are my fingers not 9 inches long?
Oh, you said
Fuck.
that playing the guitar and Rocksmith was filling like the Dota hole for you. Is that still the case?
Yeah, still I play a lot less Dota. Yeah, although I played a little Dota. This weekend.
Backsliding? No.
No. I was hungover. So
It's funny. It's funny because
play Dota.
when you were first getting into Dota, it was, I think, during the Kickstarter Progress Cast in 2012. It was.
Oof.
That's true.
And I
That's when you
started
got
to
into
play
it.
the guitar.
No,
The Return of Idle Thumbs.
when you were playing, when you were starting to play,
good.
when you were just picking up Dota, it was when I had like the life bandwidth and wasn't yet bored of
play
trying
the
to learn the
banjo.
banjo, and you made the comparison because those were the two things that we were embarking on in our home.
yeah,
and you're like,
yeah.
you're doing this worthwhile thing over in your room, and I'm playing Dota, and I can hear you
Yeah, but look who's good at that
improving your
thing
life, and now you're really good at Dota, and you're playing the guitar, and I stopped playing the banjo. So, so it goes.
Wah.
Yeah. But no, that's the one thing is I can look at my Dota hours played and go, if I had that in guitar, I would be fucking good. Like I would be
I had those
definitely.
Dota
I wouldn't
hours-
be great. Like I wouldn't, but I could play probably 20 songs well.
But you could
or
open
something.
for the international
Well, yeah, obviously.
on guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that would be good.
Have you guys
No,
ever
it's-
seen those videos of like the Blizzard house band playing like playing at BlizzCon and stuff?
No.
It's the weirdest thing because it represents such a specific evocation of like likely taste of the people assembled in the room, because it's always like
Are they like Blizzard employees who play?
I think they're Blizzard employees who like form their own band, which is totally fine. But it always ends up being this like crazy mashup of like fantasy music, you know, but like with kind of metal style guitar solos.
Yeah, of course.
And like a flute or something. Like it's such a hilarious, weird, just like these are the things that the audience who is here in this room is like uniquely qualified to enjoy this.
Yeah, the like Lord of the Rings infused death metal, like super Euro-y thing is totally that's what you would want to happen. Like, I don't know. If I went to BlizzCon, like an opening BlizzCon will be the Blizzard house band. I was like, there better be just like a fucking ripping drum solo with just exploding guitars, then someone going boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo over the top. Like, that better happen, or I don't even know where the fuck I am. Like,
man, I went to a
wait, so that's just E3, but with the little like whimsical Hobbit flute over the top of it, basically.
Yes.
But also, yeah. That sounds. So I went to this is similar, but 180 degrees the other way.
Sure.
Is that
you were like wrapping around to the other side?
I had to go to a Disney. We always had to. There was these yearly meetings where like all of one, like there's Disney's was at this time was split.
When you worked at Disney.
Yeah, it was split up into these 5 sort of areas. There was like the studio, there was animation, there was consumer products and whatever, parks, and then another one I can't remember what it is. And each one of those would have a big quarterly meeting, and they would be like at like the Pantages or something. It'd be like 3,000 people in a room. So we go, and they're always just slideshows and inspirational speakers, and sometimes there was like an act or whatever, or like a MC, and there was usually a party at the end of it. So you just kind of like get through this. It'll be like 3 hours, but we'll all get fucking trashed, and it'll be a big expensive party afterwards.
Sure.
And they finish one up, and we're all like, okay, it's done. And they're like, no, sit back down. And the president of consumer products at the time, whose name I will not mention, played 5 songs with his band for half an hour.
Wow.
And they were, but like, can you, like, he's our boss.
Right.
Like, you can't fucking leave. And at the end, like, 3 guitarists come out, and they're playing what seemed like forever, the Pirates of the Caribbean theme, like the churning, like the Hans Zimmer or whatever.
For me,
no, Hans Zimmer.
no.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh,
we're all
God.
just sitting there, and then a Jack Sparrow from like the rafters swings onto stage, and fire and fireworks explode into the air, and you saw 10 grown millionaires having the most fun of their lives, and then 3,000 regular people just sitting there being like, what? Yeah. And we all left, and like at the end, like imagine like a Queensryche style rock show where at the end everybody just went, whew, okay. All right. And then slowly filed out.
Yep.
Smoke hanging in the air.
Yeah, wealthy people playing rock music in a corporate environment is one of the saddest things I can think of.
Yeah.
It's really unpleasant. It's not fun.
No, it was not. It was not. I think that was my last quarterly meeting at Disney, if I remember. Or a yearly meeting,
Yeah.
Oof.
I feel like it's like...
I don't know if that's really appropriate for the podcast, but I don't even know if it's a good story.
That's one of those... Honestly, that's one of those situations that I feel... Like, when you're in that situation, it feels, like, cosmically unjust. It's like, no, you don't get to do this. You made your choice. You made your fucking choice. You're worth $20 million, and now you don't get to do this.
Yeah, right. You don't subject people to this.
Yeah.
Right. You can do this in your garage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't get to go have fun playing guitar on a stage in front of people. not you chose your life. This is not it.
Or people quit and then start at the bottom.
Right. Then you can do that. That's fine.
Like you can do it. You just have to go to like an open mic or get a gig.
Yeah,
you can't have everyone sit in a room.
But you can't force people to be there. You can't use that position to make people watch you play your chug Hans Zimmer. You can't do it.
No.
Not morally allowed.
You will find, Chris, that I can. In fact, I just did.
Yeah.
God, I read this article in The Vulture, I guess it was. Sarah pointed out to me. It was about that band Grizzly Bear. Do you guys know this
Yeah.
band? It's like an indie band. It was basically like following them for a while, and it was about how, despite the fact that this band, like, relative to other comparable bands, they've sold lots of albums, right? They've sold like a couple 100,000 of like their well-regarded album. Like you can hear them all over the place in kind of, as far as indie music goes, like that
They were in a lot of commercials, like they're played in shopping centers and stuff.
Yeah. Like they're very well regarded. They have good reviews. Like the albums are well received, but they basically just make no money. They just don't make any money. Like these days, to be a successful, like sort of a well-received artist, unless you're like Beyonce or, like unless you're really at the top of the chain, you just don't make any money at all. And it was crazy to read. Like they have to tour constantly just to like even break even, but they do not do well. Like they don't do well. Right. They live in these like shitty apartments. Like they don't have any of the accoutrement you associate with like ostensibly successful musicians. And what was crazy was reading it was the people, like the members of the band who were interviewed were constantly terrified at coming off like they were complaining because they know that the public refuses to accept that this is the thing. It's like, what, you got this amazing life, what's the fucking problem? But like,
you're gonna complain you gotta go to new cities every 3 days and be a rock star,
but it's like,
sleep
half of them don't have health insurance,
right?
Like they don't have art. Like that, the reason she gave me this article is because there was a different article that in the New York Times a couple days ago that was unrelated to this one, that was just about the idea of like that everyone understands that art has like value to society, but we're at a point now where like it is not seen as expected that that value should actually be compensated in a meaningful way,
or like, that it probably is somehow.
Exactly. People assume that because stuff is around and it gets made, that it must be compensated, but in a lot of cases it's not at all.
I don't think people nobody thinks that those guys shouldn't be.
Like Grizzly Bear is actually a good example if that's their economic state personally, because like when their album came out, its cover was pasted on like construction walls everywhere in the city,
and that was a big point of the story.
Every radio that you ever hear it on. So your assumption is, if the marketing budget is this high, visible from space slice of that pie chart also is in their bank account.
Yeah, but then when you think about it, no one's paying any money to hear that music. It's like they're getting paid. I know what you're saying, the perception. But if you think of level beyond that, it's like they're getting paid a fraction of a tiny fraction of a cent to get played on Spotify. Like if they're lucky, they'll get licensed in a couple things, and that's like a couple months' rent. Apparently, they said it's worth. Like if they get in a commercial or something. But like, there's no ongoing revenue. Like there's no money that like. But they're like, we spend 2 years making this record, and people get infuriated if they have to pay $9 to buy the album.
Right.
Like it's crazy. It's a crazy situation. Why did I bring this up? There's some reason I brought this up, and I can't remember what it was now. Oh, it was about the fucking millionaire guitar people, right? Yeah. Because that is like that's one of the reasons it makes me so angry to think about, because it's like then you've got these fucking dilettantes basically who are just like playing rock and roll is fun. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and it's like it's just a completely skewed like I don't know. That was a way too long a tangent for that. As a response,
what you're saying is those Disney executives should have booked Grizzly Bear and paid them handsomely.
Well, yeah, the people probably at the thing would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah. That's not true. A year before that, I went to another party. At Disney that had a musical act, and it was the RZA, and there were 500 people standing in like an outdoor tented area.
Did you see?
Who didn't know who the RZA was, drinking fucking apple teenies.
Okay.
And like my buddy Sean and I were going fucking ape shit.
Yeah.
Have you watched the Mike Judge Silicon Valley show?
No, not yet.
The opening scene of that show is a huge Silicon Valley like backyard party in someone's mansion, and Kid Rock is playing, and he's just going ape shit on stage, and the camera cuts back, and it's just like 100 guys with solo cups with mixed drinks in them,
talking to each other on their
looking
phone,
at him, but
yeah,
just sort of talking about just bullshit from work, and
like a Kid Rock CD is being played.
Yes,
right.
Yeah. But so that is apparently what that Disney party was.
Yeah,
but
so
for real, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's just the point is just. I think the actual point is it's a corporate environment. Let's just do the things we have
that's
to do.
true. No
and
one's
then
there because
go
they
to a
wanna be
fucking
there.
party
Yeah.
and drink and don't
Yeah.
make anybody dance on stage or don't do
Yeah,
any of that
yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Let's just
Yep.
fucking do our jobs.
Yeah, just be honest about what's happening.
Yeah.
That's all you need to
That's
do.
just exactly right.
Yeah.
Like E3 is.
God, I've been trying to find a way to talk about E3 for like the whole podcast because it
welcome.
feels like all of the subjects we've been talking about have kind of been hovering in like the thematic E3 zone, but never. There's like a magnetic polar opposite situation going where you can't approach E3. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about E3.
Because I want to talk about at least 2 games.
Okay, yeah.
But let's take a break and do.
We're gonna take a break already?
Dude, we've been talking for like a while.
Yeah, but about nothing.
Well, okay, we'll keep going.
I don't know. We can take a break, but then we have to come back for the real podcast after this.
No, we are taking a break because that was too good of a sign off.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Video games.
This episode of Idle Thumbs is brought to you by Hulu Plus. Chris, you're a Hulu Plus customer.
I am.
I have been a Hulu Plus customer, and I'm currently actually a Hulu Plus customer.
As am I.
Yeah. And you too can be a Hulu Plus customer by going to huluplus.com/thumbs, and you get 2 weeks of full access completely free, which is twice the amount of weeks you would normally get if you didn't use the /thumbs code. Hulu Plus is $7.99 a month, and it has a ton of shows, plus all of the Criterion collection is on there. I watch The Daily Show and Colbert Report on there almost every day, because I think it's 2 of the best shows on television still. It's amazing to me that they're both still so good.
Yep.
It's incredible to me.
I also know that Will does this every day because he sits right next to me at work and I see it on his monitor.
Oh,
Yep.
well.
Yeah, I end up using...
Just kidding.
'Cause with Hulu Plus, you can also watch on your phone or like on your... Like if you have a Roku streaming box or a device like
Yeah,
that.
Roku is where I
Yeah.
enjoy most of my things like this.
It's pretty cool.
But yeah, huluplus.com/thumbs for twice the amount of free trial you would normally get.
Which is 2 weeks. That's plenty of time to binge watch that one show they're telling us about. What is it about a
Binge
guy?
watch Deadbeat about a pot-smoking guy who talks to ghosts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they know everything about us. It's like they know about half the things about us.
huluplus.com/thumbs.
Video games.
The pot-smoking guy who talks to ghosts. The pot-smoking guy who talks to ghosts.
The pot smoking guy who talks to ghosts. The pot smoking guy who talks to ghosts.
And now...
It's... Oh, you've been to E3.
Yes. I went...
Were those bombs going off, or are you ripping the heads off of innocents?
I was doing...
both.
I was doing what E3 does.
Kicking bodies and laughing?
Just exploding...
Cavorting amongst the corpses.
Yep, I was cavorting amongst the corpses. You've named the episode before we even got to the dateline. You did it, Chris.
At first, I think it's explosions, but it's rhythmic in the way this sounds like a giant running.
Or like Donkey Kong.
Yeah, it's Donkey Kong. He's zooming in barrels, but it could,
you're right.
it could be
Yeah,
like an
yeah, yeah.
oncoming mech where every time it steps, the camera like rack zooms really quickly in
Yeah,
it more and
yeah.
more times. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then like on Tom Cruise's face, probably.
He's in a new movie, I
Tom
guess.
Cruise is only in movies where he's in a giant suit now. Is that his thing? It's weird, right?
don't know.
It feels like he's been in like 4 movies in a row where it's like
They
he's
all have
wearing
the
like
same-
white
yeah, they all have the
suit,
same movie
like, mech
poster. They-
robot
But
suits.
apparently, it's like a okay movie.
Yeah,
This
that's what
one's the
I've heard.
video
There's
game
a few
adaptation
people
of it.
that
Yeah.
a few people that I like respect online.
Yeah, it's weird though. It's like
Maybe we should go see it.
because there was this one whose name I can't remember because it sounds like a Bond movie.
Edge of
It's
Tomorrow.
Escape from
Edge of
Tomorrow.
Escape from Tomorrow. Edge of
No,
Tomorrow.
Escape from Tomorrow is that movie that was shot in Disneyland that was in like the
Yeah.
film
I
festival
was Escape
last
from
year.
Tomorrow.
Are we on the
man.
podcast?
I don't know.
What's
Who cares?
happening right now? Okay.
I want to keep talking about Tom Cruise, but it's okay. What I want to do is silence my telephone.
Ding ding.
All I want is to talk about Tom Cruise.
God, I really hope that was a text message from Tom Cruise.
Bing, bing. The
Jake.
other one was Oblivion.
My ears are burning.
Yeah. Did you not enjoy Jack Reacher? Question mark.
Was it Jack Reacher?
It was called One Shot.
Because there was Jack Reacher, Oblivion, and
Or no, maybe it was just
And the
called
Tomorrow
Jack Reacher.
Jack
one.
Reacher isn't.
But it's based
he's
on-
no, he's
blue
not wearing
shot
a suit in
himself
that one. I feel like there was another.
God, that movie's. Oof.
I think it's just that Oblivion and Jack
good.
Reacher trailers were playing at the exact same time, so it was
Yeah.
impossible to.
Yeah.
So, this is our E3.
There was a
episode.
time when Tom Cruise was the biggest movie star in the world, and every single time there was a Tom Cruise movie coming out, you fucking knew about it. It's like he just kind of got tired.
Well, he's been doing that for like 30 years now.
Yeah. He needs his like.
I don't think most-
He needs
I
like
don't think
another.
most
Also,
leading-
do you think he's got like another Born on the 4th of July in him?
Probably. I mean, he's just in
hope
these
so.
kind of just like okay action movies again and again now.
Yeah.
It
You know,
feels
like
like
he's
there were
not-
a
It's
lot
weird
of.
though because it can't be because of the money. Man doesn't.
I think
need
he just
money.
likes it. He's got to, right? I mean, he's got to want to keep working.
He loves to run and ride motorcycles.
Yeah.
So
But-
I guess that's cool.
It also seems like the Tom Cruise movies that were like the Tom Cruise event movies were the ones where the poster was just like his face lit.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I think about like, there's a Top Gun variant that I think has a lot of Tom Cruise face. The Mission Impossible ones, like there's just a lot of them that are just him. And his modern sci-fi movies aren't those, which makes me think that the only ones that he considers like canonical are the Mission Impossible series, because those ones the poster is just like a profile photo of Tom Cruise's face. And those are the ones that go up on the wall at his house. The ones where his face contractually takes up at least a third of the poster.
I really hope when you walk into Tom Cruise's house, there's just a poster for The Last Samurai.
I don't know if that one counts.
Why? He's like in the middle of it, like with like swords. And
That's a lot of
fucking
body, though. I'm
full
talking about
samurai
face.
gear. Okay.
Tom Cruise's face is where it's at.
I understand.
Tom Cruise face is where it's at.
Yeah, Tom Cruise face is
Tom
his full
Cruise
name.
face. Is that,
Sorry, guys,
Does that
I just
mean
got up to get
E3
some
talk
water.
is happening?
Yeah, that's the
Oh,
sound of
it's your
E3.
E3.
Yeah.
Okay.
What? Is it not? I
Did you
mean,
say got up to get some water?
It was just that walking mech. This sounds like footsteps to me.
Oh, I thought
that was
I thought
Tom
you were-
Cruise got some water.
I thought you were referring to like the water footstep thing in Jurassic Park,
Oh
like making a weird, crazy loop around callback to that.
no.
Crazy loop.
I don't
around
believe in
callback to Jurassic
referential
Park.
humor.
Yeah,
Come
no.
on,
It's,
please.
I like that in and of itself is now referential humor. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. Like meta. Just
Meta ruination.
you've become everything you hate.
All of the
became that a long
games I'm
time ago.
excited. Oh, 2 out of the 3 games I'm excited for coming out of E3 are not references to previous games. Are actually just original statements.
Yeah,
Yeah. Jake already mentioned Ori, which you should talk about.
Yeah.
And
We didn't actually talk
still excited about No Man's Sky.
we didn't say anything about it.
No, we haven't talked about Ori yet at all.
You mentioned Ori.
I mentioned
in the
that it
first part.
exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't know.
Yeah, No Man's Sky. Is...
That new Zelda trailer got me too.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
Oh. Yeah, but I think there's more interesting things to talk about No Man's Sky, but I just want to talk about Ori for a second.
Go for it.
What's the full name of that?
Ori and the Blind Forest.
I think that's right. I think you're right.
It's because remember there was the typo that was Ori and the Bling Forest.
Yes. Yeah. Spike TV called it Ori and the Bling Forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ori and the Blind Forest. It's one of the games that was shown in the Microsoft E3 keynote. It was like that keynote. All right, I'm gonna get on my stupid out of thumb seat for a minute because I watched the whole Microsoft keynote.
I kept logging off.
Let's call it a press conference. Let's be honest about what it is.
I
is a
watched
press conference.
I watched
Let's
the
not
Microsoft
elevate
press
it.
You're right.
Yeah.
I watched the exclusive keynote speaker video games. The Sony one was not this, which was nice, but the Microsoft one, I think I lost track of the number of times that 4 dudes in futuristic combat armor dropped out of a vehicle. It was a million times. And so it looked amazing aesthetically, but it was just a lot of that. But then right in the middle of it, the Ori trailer popped up.
Yeah, the lights go down, and then there's
Yeah.
thunder and a swooping
Yeah,
owl.
and it's sort of 2D animated leaves blowing around and stuff. And then, the
Ori is like if somebody wanted to make a Metroid game, but was inspired by Super Meat Boy's platforming and also
Really?
loved Miyazaki.
yeah. The game, it's this, all the backgrounds are hand painted, super parallaxy, look like modern, sort of more fantastical, more Western fantastical, but Miyazaki influenced stuff. But mechanically, the way that Ori controls, it is like a Meat Boy or N type situation,
Cool.
where it's wall slides, jumps,
Yeah.
lots of wall to wall, back and forth hopping to elevate, and the entire game
It's sort of
apparently
double jump, triple jump.
it has. It seems
of
like
things
it's
like
the
that.
trailer has him floating on a leaf, like Zelda does in Zelda the game series does not. Specifically, Link, the hero,
Like
of
Princess
the Zelda
Zelda
games.
does
like
when
Princess
she's
Zelda does,
escaping.
like Link does in the 3D Zelda games. That you get the Deku leaf and float around. And apparently, also it's a huge Metroid style world map, and I don't know. It's just it looks very much like it came conceptually from the Xbox 360 Summer of Arcade, everyone's
Oh,
making
yeah, yeah, yeah.
platformer buzz. but this looks like just the most intensely honed
Well
aesthetically
executed,
and
yeah.
execution wise version of that. It's I don't know.
Music is beautiful.
Cool.
It's really looks like a really impressive.
James can animate really
game.
well. It turns out.
Man, he's so good.
Yeah, I don't know that, and it was cool to see that just like basically silence everyone. Like I was watching the Giant Bomb live stream, and they're just like, "What? What?" I don't know. It was cool.
Nice.
I'm really excited for that stupid video game. I don't know what else to talk about.
I
Oh,
watched that No Man's Sky E3 demo like 10 times.
I didn't
Was
understand
that different?
it.
So was that?
Yeah,
I saw
it
a
was-
thing
it was
that was a
actually-
trailer.
It's just
I
more
guess?
stuff. It's just like they're.
Well, no, I mean, I'm saying,
Yeah.
is the thing you want? Was there only one video that they released, or
I think so. I mean, it had dinosaurs in it. Did you see that one?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
watched
didn't
it,
feel like a demo. That felt like just a pre.
Yeah, that's the
done
thing.
trailer.
And like,
It was hard for me to
I
tell
don't-
because like, the way that the head moved around and
it
stuff.
feels like I'm
couldn't-
gliding on like
I couldn't tell if it was pre-rendered, if it was just a really fuzzy
It
analog
seemed like
stick
it
for the
was-
trailer. Like
it
what you
seemed
know,
like it was something based in engine, but was like a demo,
Like a
that was
simulated
made
walkthrough
for,
almost?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
You know,
that's
it
what felt
reminds
like.
me
I
of
could be
though,
wrong.
like, and this might be. I mean, I don't know if
It didn't look like watching someone play.
like, I have no idea what the game is. Like zero idea, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure it out or like past conjecture.
Yeah,
But I think it's actually okay. Like I was thinking about that a lot. Like I'm like, is it okay that I just don't know what this game is, or is there even
Yeah.
a game here?
I think that's fine.
And I, for a long time, played Space Engine as much as you can play that game, which is just here is the entire universe built procedurally, but a lot of it has been seeded with actual astronomical data. So like,
Yeah.
here's our solar system, and here's the Milky Way, and things like that, and so far it all is away. And I would just fly around for hours and listen to music, and I would go, "Oh, I wonder if I can get to this star." Or, like, I wonder if I can get to like whatever, and I would just try to navigate myself there.
Yeah.
And that was enough. And that's sort of like the way I play a lot of open world stuff too. So I wonder if this is just saying, yeah, that's okay. Like that's just what the game is about, and there isn't going to be like an obscene mission structure or like a concrete thing to discover.
when they first announced the game, it was
In Minecraft,
just
it's like that,
players
yes.
are placed in a galaxy, and your objective is just to explore it and like not categorize, but like chronicle the things that you discover. And I mean, that's all that there was in the trailer, right? I mean, except
Yeah.
that's not all there was in the trailer.
Well,
There
there
was
was
like command
dogfighting and
ships
stuff.
and dogfighting
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
when you find new planets and little caves and creatures, it would show the name of it and the player that had first seen it. Like that was popping up in the UI all
Yeah,
over
yeah.
the place.
Oh, I didn't know that last part. I didn't know it was like
Yeah, like-
shared.
Yeah, they were,
Yeah, when,
they were
like,
using
when-
usernames and
when
stuff.
that big
yeah,
when
other
that
people.
big like sort of brachiosaurus-y thing popped up and the plane flew by it, a little like HUD element came by that had the name of the species as well as the person who first found one of them in the galaxy. And I think the idea is that there's just a ton of crazy procedurally generated stuff all over the place, and when you find a species for the first time, you get to claim it. But the idea is to go and just explore the galaxy. The thing that was the coolest thing in that trailer, though, was just hopping in a ship,
Yeah.
flying out of the
Escaping the
atmosphere, being in
yeah.
space. That's incredible looking, and then just popping down on another planet. And
Yeah.
I mean, the imagery of all those planets just being like looking like a weird sci-fi. Like mural or something, or
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
old
it has,
kids'
like-
room
it has,
poster
like-
where there's just huge planets all over the place.
It has like Trapper Keeper scale.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Totally,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Trapper
yep,
Keeper
yep,
scale.
yep.
But like, that's what I want. I don't know.
Yeah.
That feeling was.
So, Sean, were you the one saying that you don't know if it matters that it's not telling you what the game is? Because I basically feel that way, right? In the sense that when you, maybe I've talked about this before. I was reading something I remember about someone who like works for a major movie studio, and they were saying like, with a big kind of blockbuster movie, your trailer needs to have a lot of plot in it and a lot of like high concept stuff. But if it's a if it's a less kind of blockbuster thing, that's more of like a mid range or smaller thing, all you really need to get across in the trailer is like tone and atmosphere and like general setting. Like it's less important what the details are, because what you're trying to do is just get the audience like intrigued by like what kind of feelings am I going to have watching this. And like that's kind of, when you said that, it reminded when you said what you said, it reminded me of that. Like I'll play whatever they decide is the glue that puts this together, right? Because I just want to
I
see
think
this.
so. I'm like a hard get. I feel like I'm always like a hard person to like
Well,
get to. Like,
I was going to qualify it and say the exception is if the multiplayer component of it is really prominent. Because I just don't really want to play, like, I don't want to play a Minecraft or DayZ or something version of this. I'm not saying with respect to survival stuff. I
It
just
feels
mean
like if the multiplayer is really passive in an experience like this, it's fine.
Yeah,
like, if it's close,
exactly.
Like,
If
I
it's
guess
like-
not
if-
literally
if
like
it's
Journey,
just-
but of that feeling
yes.
where you go off into
if
space.
the
there's
game is
another
just like
ship.
aware that
Yeah.
there's other people and like that's fine. I just don't want to have to.
You don't want to spend the whole time like flying in a fleet of
Yeah,
three guys that are your friends, and like you have to stick
Yeah, and like
together.
competing against people. Like
Yeah.
I just want to be able to play the game only on my own terms in terms of what time I spend in, and not feel like I have to coordinate with anyone or anything. But other than that, I'll pretty much, if it's more focused on dogfighting stuff, fine. If it's more focused on exploration stuff, fine. If it's more focused on cataloging things, fine. Like I'll probably be fine.
You just
with
want to have an
wherever that-
opportunity to
wherever
fly
that
from
needle
planet to planet through
falls.
space. in
Yeah,
that thing.
basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll probably be fine with it. And I don't know. I just don't know where that needle falls looking at the trailer.
Yeah,
but I don't know if I care all that much. It looks cool. It's crazy that it's being made by what, 4 people?
4 people. Yeah.
Oof. Is that Unity? Does anyone know?
I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
Is it their own thing?
I think it is.
Ori
think
is
these
Unity,
guys-
which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ori's Unity. Yeah.
And that game, I mean, it's been in production since way before the Unity 2D stuff. I think it is just a 3D camera with parallaxing in the background and stuff. But like, that is such a nice looking game for a Unity game.
Mm-hmm.
The Unity people must just be like, just, I don't know. It looks like a game that you expect to just rebrand the entire Unity site for how nice it looks.
Right.
Yeah, the trailer stuff is interesting. I don't know. It's like, I don't.
Yeah, I watched the No Man's Sky video and I was just like,
I mean, that's
I was
definitely...
like
I
ensorcelled
wanted
by
like
it. To use a
5%
Bannerman
more
word.
information,
Yeah,
but I didn't want
the
enough
thing-
information.
that
I didn't
principle-
want too much, though. It's
Yeah.
so funny. There's like
that
this,
principle is less applicable to games than it is for movies, because you know that to get to the end of the movie, all you have to do is sit there. It may not be your favorite thing ever, but you don't need to learn a skill to watch a movie, right? So games,
Right.
games are a little bit different, but
Right.
but I think, you know, there's still a kernel to it that is relevant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As long as the game isn't like a super hardcore version of the thing, and I assume this game is not going to be, right? Like the trailer shows that much. The trailer, if anything, it may not show like what the balance of gameplay and focus of gameplay is, but it does, I think, strongly suggest it's not going to be a super hardcore version
Yeah,
of
there's
any of
like
the components
no like
that are in it.
So
that's-
nested menu. Like
Yeah, so that's the reason I'm not
loadout
worried.
stuff or anything.
God, meanwhile,
I
I
can see.
loaded up. I finally managed to like pay for the correct Star Citizen package.
Hey!
And download the like 13 gigabytes of stuff. I couldn't figure out how to fly the ship around. Like I went into the hangar and like I walked around and they've got all this like full body animation stuff, and like you get into your ship and you like ease yourself into the chair.
Wait,
and
did you have like flight sim baby thing where you're like, I'm in the thing?
well, you can like
Tick,
you can
tick,
like
tick, tick.
click the buttons and you can
Like,
see the guy's
you
hands.
retract
Like
the wheels
you can
and-
see the guy's hands move the sticks around as you're WASDing and like pressing Q and E and stuff. And like I pressed escape and I went into the key bindings and it looks like the hilarious keyboard overlays of your, you know,
Right.
it looks like the crazy big plastic thing you put.
Right.
Like almost like at least half the keys on the keyboard do something. But I couldn't figure out how to make it go. I couldn't figure out how to just make my ship go.
Where's the
Because there's a
big button
throttle
that-
button, and there's
Yeah.
like a brake, and there's like all these, and
You have
there's
to
like
probably do the 5 switches you have to flip first before
Yeah.
before you can start the engine
And
up.
You
just look it up.
discovered how to do it, right?
no,
Are you serious?
no, I didn't.
Somebody, so in our team chat at the office, because you said this
Yeah.
in the team chat.
And Ollie was
Campo.
like, "Oh, you got to pick up your helmet."
Yeah,
And I'm
Ollie's
"What?"
like, "Put your
So I
helmet
had to
on."
go like find my helmet in this big
That's
hangar.
all he said.
Which took a while because I'd
The
walked
idea
to
that
the other
you
side of the hangar, and the hangar's huge.
Sitting there
So I
with no
walked all the way
helmet,
back. I found my helmet. I put it on, and then I went back into a ship. I had like 4 different ships. I didn't even think I bought 4 ships, so I don't even know what that means. And like,
Congratulations,
also
Chris. You're
I
a
found
$2,900 backer of Star Citizen.
I found this like in-world console that pops up at like Minority Report style floating screen, and I couldn't figure out how to interact with it like fictionally. Like the whole I felt
what
like
you
such
don't
an
know is you're
idiot
playing as
this.
a time traveler.
I went back into my ship with my helmet on, and like that time more things popped up in front of my face, presumably because I was wearing my helmet, and that's what
Made your helmet
displays
head.
things.
Yeah.
But I still couldn't figure out how to just take off with the ship. I feel like an idiot. So
Do they
I
have
got
a little web browser you can pop up in there and load up YouTube and type in Star Citizen
I
how
just
to
didn't have
take
time.
off?
I forgot we were recording the podcast so early today. This is like lunchtime that we're recording this, and I forgot we were doing it early, or because I was gonna like play more of it before the podcast. I was gonna solve this problem and play it before the podcast, so I didn't have to admit how much of an idiot I am. But too late for
Instead,
that
you're just
now.
playing Citizen. Just playing walk around.
Yeah, playing Hangar Citizen. Also, well, actually, I guess I'll save this. We got a bunch of emails from people kind of like who are deep into Star Citizen, who just like heard what we talked about last week. So a lot of whom were like, yes, I'm fully bought in, but you're totally right about how weird and like convoluted this community is. So that, I don't know if we have time for reader mail, I would be interested to read some of that stuff. Anyway, I don't know. It's pretty. It's really beautiful. And also, I have to admit, like pressing escape and going into the key bindings and just seeing all that shit there, seeing like the throttle button and like pitch and yaw and like power to shields and everything. Oh my God, it made me want to play it so badly.
And then you were so pissed that you couldn't take the ship off.
I'm happy that that's your reaction.
Yeah, that you looked at that and just like, like
I think I would have old man.
Your X-wing brain is like,
well, because I played, I played Wing Commander and TIE Fighter and X-Wing. Like I played all those games, right? The things that were like more complicated than Rebel Assault or like an arcade shooter, but not Falcon 4.0. Right? That middle ground of like, they're basically still action games, but they make you feel like you're actually controlling this cool device.
It's crazy that you're like playing a downloadable game with no instructions that if it was 1997 would have showed up with a 200-page spiral-bound
right, that would come with the phone book. Like, welcome new recruit. Or no, like to earn your citizenship. It's Star Citizen.
Yep. But also, I would
the picture of Chris Roberts in a flight
also,
suit.
If that was like 1995 or whatever, I would have just known what to do because I played I was so immersed in that.
You would have
in that
like,
world.
Flips to the 190th page about how to do the crazy thing.
Yeah, but I mean, it definitely. I know there have been other games like this released in the last few years, but it doesn't seem like any of them have really caught on or like gotten.
That must be
excited.
The hardest thing actually about designing those games is this. Once you over, like all the mechanical stuff is probably. Not that that's easy, but it can be chalked up to just sort of like ambitious, and I'll know when it's right because I'll be playing it and I'll feel like it's right. But like getting all that stuff then down and being like, yes, all this stuff is in the game, all this stuff is good, and it all works together nicely. And now I got to download that into a customer. Like that's going to be the hardest design problem.
It's weirder now because it's like, when's it done? It's crowdfunded, and it's releasing it piecemeal over the next 2 years.
Right. I mean, there's just going to be it's like Kerbal's another great example. Actually, Kerbal's very similar totally. Of like level of complexity. Yeah. Not doneness. Balanced. How do I learn to play the game?
Accessibility. Yeah.
You know what's funny though? Like, it's probably not worth making this value judgment, but I think it's good. Like, I think it sucks because in a little bit that like there are people who will probably won't discover this game because.
Which game? Star Citizen or
games
Kerbal?
Like that? Okay. Kerbal and Star Citizen. And I mean, Dota had this problem too. I think a lot of games that start in beta that are very, very complex is that there's a whole chunk of the audience who'll just never be able to get over the hump because there's not like a very clear onboarding path and like tutorial. Yeah. But I think it's also like for like anybody of any age who's interested in this sort of thing, having to sort of discover the rules of a thing and like how it works and research and be like, okay, I'm going to look on YouTube and I'm going to read this PDF and I'm going to look on this website and I'm going to look on this wiki and I'm going to look at this YouTube now. Like that's a really good sort of like
find a weird guy in chat.
Yeah. You know what I mean? True. Like it's like a good way to think about the world. Like, oh, if there's an unsolvable
you'll have
puzzle
to do some legwork. Yeah.
The answer is out there. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know. I think it's good.
No, it's cool. I remember feeling like the first time I did anything of consequence in Kerbal was very exciting and like empowering,
right?
Because it was not automatic that would occur,
right? Like,
and I know it wasn't because I failed so many times on the way.
Yeah,
like that's one of the reasons what you're describing is one of the reasons I'm often very and this doesn't apply to all games, right? Like this only applies to games where there is actually some reasonable like reward predicated on player expressivity or creativity, right? Like if your game really is just like walk down a corridor and shoot guys, then it's pointless to make it overly accessible. But in a lot of cases, this is why I'm often skeptical of kind of design best practices about like how stuff should be spoon-fed or like how players should be trained. You know what I mean? Because often I feel like it kind of just erases the ability to have that experience.
Right.
But like again, that in a lot of cases that mainly applies to games where there is actually like a multiplicative return on investment from the player.
Yeah.
Because in some games it would be pointless.
Well, I always feel like I either want a game to be so straightforward in how it's presenting the thing that's presenting. The thing it's presenting can be complex and hard to digest or whatever, like the theme or
mentally.
The world. Mentally, yeah. Yes. But like Portal's a great example. Mm-hmm. Does this, do this with this trigger and this with this trigger. Go. You know, I either want it to be really straightforward to where I forget the tutorial ever happened.
Yeah.
Or like so complex that I can fiddle with the world for hours and hours and hours and continue to surprise myself mechanically.
Totally.
But like 90% of the games that you're seeing now at E3 are all like there's going to be a 90-minute fucking like
Right.
tutorial equipment traversal crazy tutorial
of stuff that isn't really doing anything. You know,
no, just to get you to the point where they can now like force feed you the thing that they have made for you. Yeah. It's bad.
No, I
You'll know
agree
when
with you
and
on
which
that.
buttons to press, basically.
Yeah.
But they're all just effectively a version of press A to continue. It's just not always A.
Or like onboard you to the point where you'll be able to just recreate that cool shot from the trailer.
Yeah,
Man,
exactly.
that's actually okay. This is, I know that is by and large true, but it felt like, at least in the Microsoft keynote, which was the one that I watched all the way through, it seemed like at least a number of the games that were on display there were trying to like widen the width of the walls, put people in more arena-based stuff, and it felt like it was like there was not universally because they played a lot of demos. It opened with, was it just Call of Duty Advanced Warfare? The first thing that was in the keynote was just like, I felt like I had watched 10 plus minutes of a guy walk down wrecked military corridors, and I think it was a Call of Duty game. But then there was, God damn it, I can't remember the name of the game. It was a really ridiculous looking game thematically. It's the new Insomniac game, I think. Was that?
Oh, it's
Sunset
called
Overdrive.
Sunset Overdrive.
Sunset Overdrive. Like that game looked like it was entirely like crazy like traversal and enemy attacking, but in the demo that they showed, it was just a gigantic environment, and it was all like, it wasn't, at least the way that it was presenting the scenarios in the video that they showed, it was very much about autonomous characters and a player and you engaging them using the entirety of the terrain, and like it felt very wide open and very much about like go up to get a vantage point. Like you can, it had like jet grind radio-y type stuff in it as well.
Yeah,
where you'd
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of like
That's a
hit a
comparison
rail
I've
and go
seen
flying
often
somewhere
made,
else, but then you'd be able to sort of wall run around a little bit. And like, I guess the other one that they showed was the Turtle Rock multiplayer game.
Oh, Evolve.
Evolve. Yeah. But that's a multiplayer game, so I don't know if that counts.
That game looks
but that game looks
crazy.
That game looks nuts as well. But that was another just very wide open. Everyone sort of,
You know
you
about
have
that
to be
game?
self-guided.
No, I've heard like bits and pieces, but I,
it's
don't really
like
know
inspired.
about it.
It's like if Left 4 Dead and Predator made a baby.
Yeah,
Except it's multiplayer. And
It's
the
like
fact
the
that
Left 4 Dead
like
multiplayer, but there's just one
asymmetrical
crazy
multiplayer?
super.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
4v1.
there's one
Like,
big monster
Okay,
that I think can
cool.
either be AI driven or player driven.
yeah.
So kind of like natural selection or something.
Is natural selection all versus one?
No, but it's asymmetrical.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Like I think
I mean-
like the logo for Evolve, like the E, V, O, and L are 4 little squares. Then the E has one giant square coming off it, which I think is supposed to be like
Right.
illustrating that. The
Yeah,
notion
like
of-
the fifth player who gets to control the monster is like obscenely more powerful than
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
and
continue-
that character, that monster, sort of I think like levels up over time and does
Evolves,
this-
perhaps?
It evolves.
Yeah.
Fuck. Of course it does.
yeah.
The art for it, like stylistically, it looks like a video game, but like from an execution standpoint, it looks nuts. But I
Yeah,
like that. I like that the Left 4 Dead guys are going all in on asymmetric multiplayer, because it seems like the Left 4 Dead multiplayer people really like, and
It's so good.
Left 4
Yeah,
Dead,
it's
a lot
I
of Left
never
4
played
Dead.
it. I only ever
It is
played
good.
campaign.
Oh, I played a bunch of
But
it.
Left 4 Dead
Left 4
multiplayer
Dead
is
1 I
also
played a lot
asymmetric.
of.
It's just
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
like the balance is very different than
No, totally.
Evolve.
Yep.
But Evolve feels like a game you could almost prototype inside of Left 4 Dead, like really, really early on.
I mean, it's. I really like the movie Predator. Like,
Me too.
I hope that the game is just serious in against a monster, and there's not a bunch of like, whoa, blow, like a lot of like squad talk. That's like, I
if
don't
it's
want.
just stoic as fuck.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really like I did not like the tone change between Left 4 Dead 1 and Left 4 Dead 2. Like, Left 4 Dead 1
I agree with
was
you on that.
people who didn't know they were in a horror film, and Left 4 Dead 2 was people who knew they were in a horror film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I
Like,
agree. That stuff wears thin on me.
yeah. Like, I didn't mind the character to character talk in Left 4 Dead 1 at all. But by Left 4 Dead 2, I was like,
Yeah.
clown zombies? Okay, fucking fuck.
Yep. I feel like there was. I don't know. Sorry, I feel like there was another game inside that Xbox presentation that was like that as well, but it was the thing that like kept me watching all these, because aesthetically, I don't know if I'm the only person who sees this, but I feel like every time a new console comes out, everyone just looks like a little bit too like fat and thick in the launch title games. Like I remember when the Xbox One came out, and it was Splinter Cell. I think was the first like that game that was not super early in the life of the original Xbox, but it was one of the ones that was like really everyone was excited about how awesome Splinter Cell looked. Just like everyone's just their limbs look too big. Everyone just looks a little like just a little bulkier than they should. They move a little bit more like they're made out of clay
Like
than
Gears
they should.
of War?
No, original Xbox.
No, I know, but you're saying every console generation.
Yeah, and then like the 360, it was the football game where everyone was just like a little bit too like just.
Gears of War is like the perfect example of that.
Yeah, but Gears of War, like that's a style choice. I feel like everyone's just ripped in that. Whereas I feel like when people are like, we have so many more verts, so many more polys than we had before. We could do so much more nuanced motion. It feels like
they're just over encumbering
everything.
models.
Just like everything just gets a little bit weird because people are like just trying to pump up the thing they already did
and the jams.
But like everyone just looks like they're like made of these weird, like slightly too cooked sausages to me right now still. And I feel like we'll eventually get over that, or I'll just get used to it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that it's a weird perception thing. It's like this is an insanely specific example of this, but when Telltale did the Strong Bad game, the Chapman brothers did a trailer for it, but they had to animate it at 30 frames a second because it cross-blended into game footage, and everything just like got a little bit more sort of weird with how it moved and stuff, and it was just like, you guys know how to animate, and you're trying to adapt those skills to like something slightly more extreme, and you don't know how to fill in the holes correctly. And it still feels like that, where like everyone's face looks weird, everyone's legs just look weird. And I think by the end of this console generation, people have figured out the limits of rendering on this system and where to make the choices to sort of stylize stuff to shape around the way that stuff looks. But right now, it just looks weird. Or I guess it just looks amazing, like Assassin's Creed looks fucking nuts. I don't know if you guys looked at that thing or not. I mean, it looks like Assassin's Creed.
Yeah,
but the lighting,
is
lighting inside of it looks so good, but everything else about it is Assassin's Creed. I heard they made that in Unity.
That is not a true statement.
No, it's just called Assassin's Creed Unity.
Oh, that's not confusing at all.
I know.
Yeah. We should call
Assassin's Creed CryEngine.
I was gonna say we should call our game Firewatch Crytek. I'm just so fucking over the Ubisoft school of design.
Too.
I'm fucking over it.
They feel like they bled that well
like,
dry.
I watched the Far Cry 4 playthrough. I'm done. I'm done with that design of
I gotta
game.
say one
I'm
thing
done
about
with the mission
Far Cry 4.
area.
I have
I'm
to
done
say
with
one
it.
thing about Far Cry 4.
What?
Go on.
I only heard about this in the context of co-op.
Okay.
But Far Cry 4 has co-op, and inside of Far Cry 4 co-op, you can turn off all story objectives and missions and just co-op the open world Far Cry simulation. That's a nice feature. Why isn't that in Far Cry 2? That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I
Someone should
mean,
mod
I
that into
like
Far Cry
the
2.
missions in Far Cry 2, even though a lot of them are repetitive. I thought they were like... I liked them. I thought the missions were good. Like, I liked that I would go and have to assassinate some fucking, like, diamond runner, and a crazy thing would happen. Like, it's not the missions. I'm just fucking over... I'm over the aesthetic. I'm over the gloss. I'm over...
The way they presented Far Cry 4
it's like it feels like a paint by numbers design.
I made my
approach to this
decision
point,
yesterday. I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch the Far Cry 4 video.
I don't know if it was the name of the villain or if it was the name of the like location or something, but at the end of the they played the Far Cry 4 video, and then what's the name of the woman who's the host of the Ubisoft presentation?
Oh, Aisha Tyler.
Yeah, she's cool. Whatever.
Yeah, she's great. She's awesome.
I think it was her. Man, it might have been like an EP. I don't remember who was talking, but they like whatever the guy's name is. Let's just say it's let's say the words that they said was Nick Brecken, which is some in-universe noun, but they were just like, more this, more that. Get ready. Nick Brecken is waiting. And then walked away. And I was like, no one cares about Nick Brecken. That was maybe someone said that once in one of the videos, but like, it felt like they were already so bought in to their own
that's
thing.
their
And
own
just the
guy,
assumption is
right?
that you're going to
Yeah.
buy into this right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's like,
Oh, there was another hilarious.
so you're trying to say like, what is the Matrix? Like, what is the
Yeah.
Matrix? That holds up.
There was
I don't know.
another turn of phrase like that. Oh, they kill me. They absolutely kill me. It's people who have just been eating their own, like, or huffing their own farts in the same building with people who already know their shit.
Oh yeah, for sure. There was a great.
It's a big marketing.
He wrote this a while ago, I think, but I think Jane linked this like Tom Francis post about
It was a talk that he did.
Yeah, it was a GDC talk he did called "How to Explain Your Game to an Asshole."
Yeah,
which is like
Resonated.
kind of a tongue-in-cheek title, but the reality of the piece was it was about how to communicate the essence of your game in a few sentences without buying your own stupid hype like that.
Right.
You know, and like one of the things he said was, I mean, he gave an example of some ridiculous lore, which I'm not going to remember what it was, but it was something to the effect of, you know, like in the Third Age, the black demon stones are in peril, and he's like, no one fucking cares that your demon stones are in peril. Not even the guy who wrote that.
Right.
Like,
well, he said not even the guy who wrote. Yeah, but he's referring to himself in that, which is good.
Yeah. But like, it's a really.
He said the people of Dark Sun are under threat from the Elder Gods.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit about the people of Dark Sun except the person who made up the word Dark Sun, and in this case, he doesn't either.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a way of like talking about games that has become totally accepted.
Right.
You know, like
because people start the conversation about how are we going to talk about the game with the concepts of like people want to feel empowered, people want to feel like the hero, people want to feel like the special. But like, that's where they start with.
Yeah.
That's that sort of like change the world mantra of like play this game and make an impact on on the make believe shit that is already there. What?
Yeah.
I feel like it might actually be worth. Do you mind if we just paraphrase this guy Tom's talk? Because I thought it was like, or at least the 4 mistakes, which I think are really good. He said the first bad way to explain your game is to not explain it at all, which is to just put up some gameplay footage and assume that it will speak for itself and that your game should be recognized on its own merits without talking about it, which is a bad thing to do. Mistake number 2 is thinking that to explain your game, you should explain your artistic intent.
Oh, that's a big one. This is
delicious.
This is a game about theme.
Yeah, so this is a game about loss.
Don't ever say that.
Yeah.
If it is, people will be able to identify it later.
Mistake number 3 is thinking that explaining your story explains your game, which is the thing about just like, so what this game is about the people of Dark Sun. I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
It's probably not.
And then he said mistake number 4 is stating that your game is good as if this will persuade us that it is.
Bigger, better, more badass.
No one ever read a developer describing their game as innovative and thought, wow, that sounds innovative. And then, when talking about what to actually do, he says,
get to the point where
he says point number 1 is to tell us what type of game it is. He says you don't have to stick to traditional genres, but try to use a word that reflects what you actually do in the game. Maybe it's not a platformer, but it's a quote 2D exploration game. Point number 2, before you even finish your first sentence, is to tell us the coolest, unique thing about your game. You can summarize it drastically. We don't need to know how it works. Like he said, the main mechanic in my game is hard to explain in 8 words, but if I say you can rewire its levels to trick people, you get an idea. Point number 3 is to give us some context. Who am I? Where am I? What am I trying to do? The plot will never sound good in 10 words, but the fantasy might. You're a spy. You're a god. You're saving kittens. You're a kitten god. You're a kitten god saving spies. All of these things are cool. So point number 4 is give us an example of how it plays. Describe a moment the player can experience that's typical of the game. If you say your game's about possessing your enemies, I'm interested, but if you tell me I can possess an enemy, throw them into a friend, and knock them both into a landmine before I switch back to my own body and watch them blow up, at that point I'm throwing money at the screen. Anyway, I don't know. This was like a 5-minute talk that he gave, and no one gets any of this stuff right.
Yeah, it's infuriating.
It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I thought that has nothing to do with E3, except that it does when you have 5 words at the end of a trailer and you just drop contextless lore and walk away. It's like,
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Like one guy is going to buy into that somewhere. He's going to be like, oh, cool, that sounds evocative. But like that's one guy out of like, thousands of people.
Yep. Anyway, A3.
I don't know. Man,
I'm still excited because I'm excited about Ori. I'm excited about the same games I saw. No Man's Sky. I'm excited about Zelda. We didn't even talk about Zelda. Other than the fact that fire looked really good. As did those explosions. Fucking Zelda.
I feel like I didn't read enough about Zelda. I just watched the video, so I'm just going to speak for a few seconds and not go into it very much. But it looks the way that I would like a Zelda game to look.
Yeah, it looks like they learned from all the other Zelda games and made a Zelda game.
Like Link's character design is busy but not super anime-y. Like the way that the world feels incredibly lush and colorful is evocative of the old games, but also like the architecture inside of it seems less built and more sort of askew. Like a lot of it reminds me of the art, the imagery that was evoked when looking at the drawings and like the manual to the Nintendo and Super Nintendo Zelda games, and I never thought that they would actually do that without flying over shooting it and ending up in like Skyward Sword or Phantom Hourglass. Both feel like they tried to like get the high fantasy thing, but then they went so far that it was just like it was cool to a 12-year-old. I don't know. It looks really nice. Who knows what it's going to be? People were talking about mechanical stuff in it, and I didn't read anything about it, but it's like,
I guess it's more open.
Oh yeah, it's
You can go places.
which
Straight out of
feels
the
like the direction they were trying to head with Link Between Worlds. The second half of Link Between Worlds is actually, I don't know if I ever talked about that. I talked about I checked in with Link Between Worlds every now and then.
I can't remember.
Once you get to the Dark World, it literally just says, do whatever dungeons you want, figure out what you're supposed to do, and doesn't tell you anything about it. And like if there's another rev on that, that's really nice. My brain can't stop thinking about Grim Fandango, but nothing was announced other than Double Fine and Sony and they said like, and another development partner are putting Grim Fandango on the PS4. And I know there's not a ton to talk about, but I can't not think about that.
Yeah.
The moment in the Sony keynote when that happened was very enjoyable to me, devoid of all other context. I thought that the thing with the letter from the 11-year-old was like a little bit cheeky and shticky, but the way that Grim Fandango was announced is the Sony speaker, who I only saw the clip, I didn't watch the whole Sony keynote, said we get a lot of letters from kids about what we should and shouldn't do, but this one really stood out to us, and it was a letter written in pencil and like from a 12-year-old girl saying, when are you gonna, like, could you ever release any classic games like ones by Tim Schafer? They don't exist anymore, and if I wanted to play one, I'd have to pirate it. Can you guys do something, please, from so and so, age 10? And the guy was like, well, this seems weird. It says she's 12 in the letter, then it's signed as a 10-year-old, and look at this smudgy fingerprint. This does not look like the fingerprint of a girl. Then it zooms out a little further, and you can see there's like a hand holding the letter that has like knuckle hair on it, and then he pans the photo up, and you can see just like Tim's mouth and goatee next to it. Then the photo zooms all the way out, and Tim has clearly written the letter and sent it to Sony, which is fine.
Sure.
It's like it's what always happens when a Double Fine announcement happens, which is fine, but whatever. The thing that happened immediately after that, though, was he just like, there was no video or anything, but he just said, so that said, we're pleased to announce that we're working with Double Fine to bring Grim Fandango to the PlayStation 4. Then the Grim Fandango logo took over behind him, and it's the same Sony thing that they had at like E3 last year and maybe the year before, where they have just that huge wrap video wall that like wraps around half the stadium. And when the logo came up, that got replaced entirely with Peter Chan pencil drawings of Grim Fandango, like old black and white stuff, and the Grim Fandango theme from the opening cutscene of the game from 1998 came up, and the audience just fucking lost their minds. And it was like, I don't know, that was crazy to me, because like, I don't know, not a thing I would ever expect to see at E3 is hear the Grim Fandango theme and see Peter Chan concept art from like 1996 up on like screens bigger than my house, and hearing thousands of people lose their fucking shit. And then it was like, and then it just cut to the next thing. But like,
crazy.
That was wild. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of weird challenges involved with making that game modern, because for a lot of reasons, like that game is like
choosing which things you modernize and which things you don't.
Because that game falls at a weird like no man's land of retro game,
right?
You know,
it's higher res than old retro games, so you can't lean on like pixel aesthetic, but it's also only 640 by 480,
exactly
256 colors.
Yep.
The backgrounds are pre-rendered. The characters are basically just like,
super
I think Tim
low
Schafer
poly
describes
3D.
them as like tissue boxes that are drawn on.
Yep.
Like
so what do you do with that, right? But like, I also don't personally, and I know other people might disagree with this, I personally wouldn't. I just know I wouldn't be happy with like a truly remade version in the vein of like the Monkey Island special editions. Like, I just don't like that, right? Like, I like playing stuff in the form that it was designed. Yeah, but also I know that Sony probably doesn't. That's less interesting to Sony probably, because they don't care about me. They care about selling this game to people who just want to buy a cool game.
Also, even to that point, the Monkey Island special editions, for whatever you like or don't like about them, just from a control standpoint, Grim Fandango also falls in the insanest, most terrible hole. Because Monkey Island, the screens are meant to be navigated with a point and click pathfinding interface, but that also means that they're fixed perspective cameras, so you can do what they did for Monkey Island 2 Special Edition and map that to like
Direct
old
control.
school direct control. Like you can walk Guybrush around.
Yeah, control will be a big challenge for this game.
And you can play it on an iPad with Monkey Island. You could play it on a
Well,
computer.
Tim said on Twitter that they added point and click controls to it.
What does that have to do with a PS4 though? That's where it gets weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't care.
I know, 'cause,
mean,
like, fans actually
I'll get the
modded,
one that inevitably comes out on PC. So
the there's the Scum VM guys who did all the like LucasArts emulator stuff made an emulator called Residual, which was an open source interpreter for the Grim Fandango engine, and they patched point and click in like 6 months ago or something. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I don't know.
Isn't there like a touchpad on the PS4?
I remember playing.
Yeah, maybe. I
remember
guess you could you could PS4 touchpad it. You could Vita touchpad it. It'd be so odd though.
Well, the Vita is the entire.
Yeah, the Vita's got
front
touch on the
screen,
front and
yeah.
back, I think. But
I remember playing Grim Fandango with like an Xbox One control, not Xbox One, a first Xbox controller way back in the day, in 2001 or whatever. And I remember feeling like it already controlled pretty well with that relative to trying to like WASD it.
it depends on
It's bad, WASD.
yeah, it's really bad. I think you have to get yourself used to the tank controls like original Resident Evil, though, which is totally out of vogue.
I know that this also has challenges due to just like how the shots in that game are framed, but like presumably it would not also be hard to allow the player to choose between camera relative or character relative.
You actually can in the original PC version.
Oh, you can?
switch.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, man, it's either in the settings or it's in the like INI file, but because there's a thing in the INI file called Mario mode that you can turn on,
Really?
and then it controls like Mario 64.
Oh, that must not be
where
in
it's
the
camera relative.
settings.
But I think that might
they wouldn't put that in the.
I don't think it's
game
called
UI.
that in the settings, but that might be what it's called in the INI file.
Right? Yeah.
Or it was just called that internally, and I learned that from Kevin Bruner at Telltale. But yeah, it's funny because just also with the Monkey Island special editions, they were able to just lop the UI off the bottom, and then the art at the top was 16:9.
Right.
Whereas Grimm, everything is composed to be 4:3, which makes sense for computer screens at the time, and it also makes sense for the fact that they're going for the framings of
pre-widescreen
pre-widescreen film noir.
Yeah,
but like Sony's not publishing a 4:3 game on the PS4, guaranteed.
Yeah.
So like something's got to give somewhere. You're not going to crop the art down unless you put vertical panning into it, which would be insane.
That'd be horrible. Yeah.
But does that mean you're like doing
Also,
digital
then
set extension?
you'd be blowing out the resolution even more if you were to widen it.
I mean, even if you had like, I guess, you'd be zooming it in even. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where whatever gives to get Grim Fandango modernized.
I mean, they must have a plan.
Yeah,
right?
it's just. I
But
mean,
I just can't.
it's going to be interesting to see what choices are made.
You think they have a plan
Someone's
Yeah,
got at least
I
a
do.
proposal. Yeah.
for all these things?
Well, someone's thought about it. This is bit. I know that I just like. I don't think I'm like. This is not a big surprise to say, but I know that this has been attempted to make happen for a long time. I would just be shocked if people hadn't at least thought about all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure someone has. I don't know. I always just feel like there's all like the ball starts rolling down the hill on these things, especially when you're trying to get Sony and Disney and a developer and another developer all to like sign on a piece of paper. And I don't think these things come up during those
There might not be consensus.
Not to say that a person
Maybe
has
not
it, yeah.
contractually, but like
Yeah.
I would say there's probably not an agreed upon group. Everyone's on the same page, but I'm sure there are people who are either understood to be or are sort of by default creative and technical leads on this project inside of Double Fine who have a mental list of here's how I would solve these problems. Whether or not they're allowed to or whether or not that's feasible is a separate thing, but I'm sure that there's like I don't know. I know there are people at Double Fine, including Tim, who know the inner and outer workings of that.
I want to ask you
game.
what you would do, but I don't think it would make for a good radio because I don't know. Yeah, actually, what would you do?
I actually don't know.
You can do anything you want.
The thing that's tough about it is I don't know what survives and
Yeah,
in what
that's a
state in the
big-
LucasArts
yeah.
archives.
Imagine every piece of source is perfect, as in as good a shape as you could want it.
I would probably do a thing that people would not agree with because I don't think that it would be 100% accurate to the game. But what I would probably do is, assuming that the original 3D files, whatever they used 3D Studio for DOS, probably, or like Max 1.0, or whatever LucasArts used at that time, I would probably go in, re-render out those at 16:9 at 1080p, and then get just an army of 2D, basically concept artists who are good at detail work, good at lighting, and have them just go and paint over the entire game. And it wouldn't look 100% 3D, but it would look fucking close because of how that style of concept artist is, and not worry about it beyond that. Maybe...
Would you just rebuild the characters from scratch?
And up-res the characters. And potentially, if you wanted to go in and add some, like Spelunky and Broken Age both have, like, a little bit of real-time lighting trickery where they'll put normal maps on stuff or put little, like, detail lighting so you can do a little more dynamic lighting than what Grim did to do that.
And you do 16:9?
Yeah, I would.
What would you do for controls?
Don't know.
Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah, that's not my job. But what I just said... You're fucked when you want to get into the 3D rendered cutscenes, because those you can't touch up by painting over them. So I don't know. What
do you do with those?
I don't know, because with Broken Age, Double Fine went insane and has all of that cutscene content running in engine, and it doesn't just cut to a bank or something, which I imagine is partly because that's an aesthetic choice, but maybe it's a technical choice for some platforms. I don't really know.
Well, once you've built all the assets, right, with a game, when you start from scratch with a game like Broken Age...
Yeah, but it's so much easier to have to deal with, like, in cutscenes, you're getting all close to stuff. You're like having characters do performance things that they would never do. It's so much easier to go into After Effects and just paste the concept art in behind them instead of like having the thing the camera's pointing at. In this cutscene, blip it into an up-res texture for a second or put the high-res flat in behind it. But like with Grim...
It's still more... I mean, still, when you start there with the engine, it's a more straightforward path.
Grim
with
Fandango,
Grim, you have no choice.
Well, everything's pre-rendered in the backgrounds, but those are real tried-and-true 3D assets. So for the cutscenes...
In the original, they
just spun the camera around those 3D art. They rendered it out. They just rendered their cutscenes out, but the cameras moved in the cutscenes just fine because it was just it just took a long time to render. It was just a 3D movie because it was just the 3D backgrounds with cameras moving. But if like if you're gonna touch the assets at all for the backgrounds, I don't know. There's just, because of exactly where Grim landed in the sort of like PC games getting on their way to being cinematic, but they didn't have the 3D capability to actually render it all in real time.
This is why I could be completely wrong about this, and I don't have any knowledge about it. So like, I'm not saying this as, with any privileged information. I don't expect them to do all that much like remaking of the game because I don't know how you would.
It feels like the number one deal breaker for Sony is going to be the aspect ratio.
Could you put it up 4:3 and have noir curtains on the black parts on the left and the right?
But you're charging $2 for that on the PS4. You can't charge $20.
You could charge
for
$5.
A 4:3 game from 1998. You just can't.
You charge $5, right?
Ooh, maybe.
I'm not saying
it's a 20-hour game.
I'm not saying you should. Actually, I have no idea what they should do.
I don't think there's an audience there for it, though. But as much as everyone goes insane,
I don't think there is either. And I agree with you on that point.
I think like what I, as a Grim Fandango fan, want is probably different than what Double Fine, as a company who has the ability to touch Grim Fandango for the first time in 15 years, wants.
What is it that you want?
Nothing really. I mean, I'm fine with Grim Fandango. I would just like to be able to play it on Steam.
Me too.
Yeah,
which doesn't require remaking anything.
No, but I mean, like if. What Sean asked, like that was like, were I the person who was working on a Grim Fandango where they said this has to look modern and here's what you're given? That's
he didn't say that.
No, I actually just said what
he just said. What
I would do nothing. I would be fine with
you would basically try to get what residual.
I'm fine with that as it is right now.
That's what I would do too. If I were in charge of that project, I would do it like the most conservative possible way, where it's like, don't spend tons of money, but like get the thing working so that you can reasonably put it on Steam and have anyone play it on their computer.
Yeah, I feel like you
have it make back that money real easy. If
it's just like a bit with Disney involved, with Sony involved, there's got to be a lot of weird expectations around this project.
I'm sure there would, but that's going to butt up against just the reality of how much budget it would take.
Yeah, there'll be the P&L on this has to have already been done. Yeah, with those two companies involved.
If it's just everything that's ever been made for Grim Fandango, a few talented people and Steam, and whatever, I would probably, if that's the case, make the characters a little bit higher res, clean up their textures so they're a little bit less pixely, so that they match the cutscene res versions of themselves.
Yeah.
Put the mouse controls in.
That's it. That's all.
I'm probably good. You know what you could do? You could probably get you could probably package it up with some sort of commentary mode or to get two-player to do something.
Could do a thing. I'm less convinced that would be a deal breaker for Sony, because I think, especially in the current landscape, if Sony can just, if this is going to exist anyway, if someone involved at Disney or whatever is saying might as well have this property, people are knocking on our door to fucking sell this thing, might as well have it out there. if it's going to be on Steam plus something, it's probably not a super hard decision for Sony. I would say even more so than Microsoft, given the kind of stuff Sony's been chasing recently, to say, well, we'll just be the one that it's on. And you know what I mean? Like,
it seems so strange to control Grim Fandango with a dual stick controller in your hand.
Well, I've done it before and it was fine.
Yeah,
like I've played it. I've played it that
Grim
way
on
and
the
it was
residual
fine.
Grim on your Mac Mini.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't think it felt unintuitive. I mean, I played it with mouse and keyboard first, but like
there are also fans who it was just a YouTube demo of it, but they took all the scenes where Manny's walking around in his office building, and they just, I think it was a combination of very light 3D Photoshoppery and just digital painting, extended the sets out to 16:9. The collision boxes were still 4:3, so he'd walk, the camera would cut
hit a wall,
without him having fully clean exits and stuff. It also looked fine, and that probably wouldn't take a lot of work.
I'm
but
sure
then what
you could do that.
What do you do with the cutscenes? It just goes to 4:3.
It might just go to
the letterbox
4:3,
bars go boo and come in on the sides.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the
Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
I feel like honestly, the if I were in charge of this project, theoretically, I would just go for solutions like that. I would find the things that are least invasive and least like can of wormsy.
Yeah,
and just make,
know how I felt, but
and just make
peace
with the things that you can't change.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, there's something to be said, right? Of like System Shock on Steam is just the same System Shock you played.
Same fucking game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's something to be said about just like the culture of
I
existence.
totally agree.
The
I feel that
Criterion
way.
Collection treatment instead.
It's not just it's not just a practicality
being
thing for me.
practical, yeah.
It's also like I believe that's important. Like preservation of art is important.
Right.
Yeah, like
when they put out whatever a Criterion edition of The Third Man, they don't go in and like
they don't colorize it,
color match it, and they don't colorize it and do a bunch of shit like that.
Yeah, like I saw already.
Yeah.
Like there are some Grim Fandango like mega fans on Idle Thumbs or like in the old LucasArts communities and stuff. But like in the Idle Thumbs thread, even someone was saying like, oh, maybe they'll. I read the original design document when Tim put it out, and there's all these puzzles in years 3 and 4 that were cut. Maybe they'll put those back in, or like I know that Tim has said before that when you go back to Rubikava at the end of the game, it was supposed to be in the daytime, and it's like, wow, that's like that's the stuff that gets so terrifying to me.
Yeah.
But you couldn't do that unless you were remaking the game,
yes.
right? I mean, they can't. There's no way.
Right. No, I know. If you could talk yourself into it in a special edition treatment if you were paying over all the art, or if you're doing something like that, you could sort of. But like, that's the stuff that what you want to do. Like if this is a film, if it's a film and the director is dead and the rights belong to their estate, so you can't tweak it because you're not George Lucas, you just do the Criterion release where you use the opportunity for the re-release to tell the stories and like finally air all the weird shit about the creation of the game, and you get all that stuff out over there, and then you let the work stand as its own thing, right? I mean,
I agree.
I don't know. That stuff was actually the coolest stuff in the Monkey Island Special Edition. In Monkey Island 2, especially, because Monkey Island 2 had commentary.
The commentary mode with Ron and Dave and Tim.
Ron, Dave, and Tim did commentary for all of Monkey Island 2, and as you played through the game, you would unlock all the Steve Purcell and Peter Chan drawings of that area that you could then browse in a browser, and like that experience.
Yeah, that stuff is awesome.
So much cooler than the actual game itself. That was just
that's what's great about. I mean, that's a thing that has been a. I mean, I'm as much party to this as anyone else, so I'm not casting stones, but like that is a thing that is kind of a bummer about the way we consume media now, me included, right? Like just sort of streaming everything. Like I feel like I used to be so much more tapped into like all of those crazy, super in depth special features thing because I used to just collect
you buy the
DVDs and then eventually
that
Blu-rays.
Was such a,
that was an awesome part of like film watching culture that existed for like a decade, basically, in between VHS and streaming.
Yep.
Like, the prevalence of those.
Laserdisc fans will tell you that was alive and well during the VHS era.
I know. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of that stuff in games as well, for sure. It's exciting stuff.
That's the Duke Nukem that needs to exist. Man, this is we're a million miles away from anything.
You've talked about this before.
About the guy who was leaking the stuff.
Oh no, what?
It's all because you know how like 3D Realms is basically in their entire library has just been churning through the hands of other people at this point. Like it's not Scott Miller and George Broussard who seem to have access to that stuff, but there was some.
I thought George Broussard was still 3D Realms.
Okay, well some assets changed hands recently because there was a guy on either like the Duke 4 community forums or the 3D Realms forums or something that was just like, here's some stuff that I found on the hard drives of 3D Realms' computer. And it was just like dumping a million splash
crazy.
screens, like
Yeah.
assets, just everything from a million versions of Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah.
And like Duke Nukem Forever, shitty game. Obviously a big, just piece of shit. But yeah, I've talked about this before. But that would be the ultimate like
Collector's edition.
What's that? God, I can't remember the name of the director of Dune before David Lynch.
Oh, Jodorowsky?
Yeah, because they made that documentary about his Dune movie.
It's like ill-fated Dune
his
attempt.
ill-fated attempt at Dune that was like it had Geiger and the Mobius and all the like whatever the like ultimate sci-fi illustrators of the 70s working on this monstrous work that then just died.
Salvador Dali was in it, like all this crazy shit.
And that never happened. And what they ended up like David Lynch put out a movie that he wanted to Alan Smithy by the end of this production. So like the finished product, whatever, the story of that, if the end result is a tiny point, there's just like a huge like just
bulge,
like just pyramid going the opposite direction
Yeah.
backwards of backstory for projects like that. And Duke Nukem feels like it would be the one that you could do the most extreme version of that ever. But when I saw that guy digging through all the Duke Nukem files and just posting them on the internet, I was like, this is it. This is coming. We're on our way. We're on our way to him being like, and look, here's the Quake 2 demo that I found. Just load this up in your open source Quake engine. And here's the, like, you know, but that didn't happen. He didn't post live code.
Speaking of discarded video game publisher goods that have fallen into new hands, so here in our office, which is shared between Idle Thumbs and Campo Santo and Asymmetric, I guess, we figure we may or may not ever be an award-winning studio, but we can at the very least be an award-having studio. And completely on accident, we came into possession of two AIIS DICE finalist plaques.
Commemorative plaques for not winning a DICE award.
Being finalists in DICE awards for, should we say the games, I guess?
I don't know.
Maybe not. In any case,
I think we shouldn't.
They're not games that we
have any involvement in.
No.
But we have them on a wall now. Actually, if you search around on things we've said on Twitter and stuff hard enough, you can find a picture of them. Anyway, someone...
we also have the Gone Home IGF...
Oh, yeah, the Gone Home IGF Man Competition nomination board.
From their booth.
From their booth, yeah. So on Reddit, I guess, a couple weeks ago, someone whose company moved into the former offices of now defunct publisher THQ posted a bunch of photographs of like just all the stuff that THQ left when they vacated the office and just never bothered getting rid of, including their huge award wall. So if you're somebody who works,
if you have any connection
to this office and you can help us get our hands on some of the discarded some of the abandoned THQ awards,
like their laudatory detritus.
Yeah, exactly. So we can bolster our own kind of proxy award wall at Campo Santo, we would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Write us at questions@idlethumbs.net.
I would extend that out to any industry award that you do not
also, yes, if you work for any other video game studio or once did, we can make room for this.
That wall can become like the French Chateau wall of portraiture, but just of industry awards. If that happens, that's fine.
Yeah.
At least we've contributed something to this world. That wall, which we can then leave behind when we go out of business.
Paying it forward.
That could be someone else's Reddit karma.
You guys want to do a piece of reader mail or two?
Yeah. Let me go get my phone. I'll be back.
We gotta lock this up quick. People want to get in this room and play video games.
All I want to do is write.
Huh?
All I want to do is write. What do I want to do?
It's 10 to 3.
I'll do 5 minutes of reader mail.
Pick the best one reader mail.
Pick one.
We gotta play through in 10 minutes. Because it's 10 to 3 because we're fucking terrible.
Okay. I'm going to do that Star Citizen one because I brought it up.
Okay.
There's actually a few Star Citizen interesting emails, so we can get at others of those next week. But for now, let me find... There's a particular one I wanted to read.
Okay.
Who knows if I'll be able to find it. Okay, yes. So this was a weird rambly email about drinking the Kool-Aid. So Yelk Nazredna, that's Anderson backwards, says, "Hey guys, I'm a citizen. I've drunk the Kool-Aid. That said, I'm going to do this." Okay. So this person quotes us from episode 161 saying, "It's inscrutable unless you're already ingrained." He continues, this is the best description of Star Citizen. You have to drink the Kool-Aid to understand. It's like what Nick said about other early alpha access games. The players getting involved are already predisposed to get into that game or that type of game. Economics. It does actually show how many pledgers and how many have pledged to date, as well as peak buying times. There are threads in the Star Citizens forum detailing this information because people are weird. If you hadn't noticed, gamers tend to like numbers and making those numbers go up. There are a few pledgers that get their rocks off seeing that pledge number get higher and higher. Part of the reason is to get to the next promised goodie pledge goal, the stretch goals. The last post I saw breaking down was when lifetime insurance ending sale was when LTI, lifetime insurance ending sale, was at the game price was around $75 per player. Most of the revenue after that date back in November 2013 is most likely new players. I think that number's gone up since then, actually. Yeah. Someone else quoted it at $90-something to us more recently.
Yeah.
Reasons for the hype. Like most things, there are haters and fanatics. A friend bought me a 300i Origin. I then bought a Hornet as I got swept up in the hype. I guess those are the names of spaceships. I've since cooled. I'm still excited, but there's a long road to go till the game is really a game. The DFM and Arena Commander are a step. I can speak somewhat for how Cloud Imperium has raised so much for this game. First, Chris Roberts. Most of the backers have fond memories of Wing Commander. These backers are late 20s to early 40s and are in the prime of their money-making life. They have somewhat disposable income, and they've suffered through decades of being shafted by AAA games and gaming companies. This, I imagine, is partly the reason for the foundation of funds being thrown at Star Citizen. Part is enthusiasm for the game itself. Part to have a game made unhindered by corporate politics and to stick it to the man somewhat. Look how much money these jokers are getting for doing nothing. Look what you could have had. I've read the forums off and on and have seen posts like this to an extent. Thus the getting off on watching the pledge number go up. It also has something to do with actually funding the game or something. The system of fake and real companies' titles, logos intermingled is confusing and strange. But if there's one thing gamers love more than watching numbers go up, they love lore. Chris Roberts has given them that, with fake companies that are real, but also not, and they're in-game making ships, and you can buy those fake ships from a real but fake company. Chris Roberts himself was even in the game as an early aerospace engineer who developed a drive or an engine or something.
Oh, so he would be in the big phone book manual in costume. I was right.
So if you're not...
Robert Space Industries also exists as Robert Space Industries inside of Star Citizen.
Yes,
presumably.
Yeah, it does. Yes,
which is a real thing.
But it's also a real like registered trading registered name of a company that is owned by Cloud Imperium, which is the real world company.
But Cloud Imperium also sounds like the name of a game that or a company that probably exists in the game world as well.
I don't think that one is, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure. It probably will be eventually. Yes,
that's the conspiracy you uncovered.
So if you're not already someone who's prepped to spend, you probably aren't going to stick around long enough to figure it out. In their system, this is fine. Once you figure it out, you probably wouldn't spend much money anyway. It's like a weeding out process. But those who have their interest piqued read and learn, and then they want in. They want into the club, they want into the group, they want to get the shiny. Then they're Chris's body, mind, and soul. They start with that first shot of heroin/ship purchase at $30, but then they see it's only another $35 for the next better ship. So they upgrade, soon they upgrade to a ship they love, but they want another ship. Fuck, they've already spent hundreds of dollars. Their wife hasn't let them yet. Money, money, money. Granted, I'm not one of these, sort of. I had my first big taste gifted to me. I bought my second ship after I get a bonus for my job. To most people, it's like a dream. They've bought a couple $100s worth of ships, which is crazy admittedly, but the real craziness are the folks who have put down thousands, and I mean thousands of dollars on ships. Some have put down $20,000 easily. These people bought lifetime insurance ships. Then he has an interlude about lifetime insurance, which is apparently a big hullabaloo. In the first year of the Kickstarter, one of the incentives was lifetime insurance. This was a game mechanic that revolved around the fact that ships are treated like cars. As such, you have to get them insured to get them back after being blown up. It's a monthly cost of in-game currency, and it was always stated to be a trivial cost, but it was a nice perk to those who backed early. Well, it never went away. I'm not going to go into it in detail, just understand it was a huge deal. Chris even stated that he wished it had never been a thing, although it is one of the reasons they made bank. As per internet law, lifetime insurance was blown way out of proportion, tantamount to ideas of you basically can't play the game without it. There are even YouTube videos dedicated to explaining lifetime insurance. Just search LTI or lifetime insurance.
Can we pause?
Yeah.
I love it.
What do you love?
I love it. I love that it's mechanically a make-believe perfect trap / like you can't play the game without it.
Well, that's the exact kind of thing that people work themselves into believing is true, even if that was never stated.
Because the designer,
but in the real world, where you can't drive your car without car insurance, lest you ruin your whole fucking life accidentally, it's incredible. The whole thing is just amazing. Also, their end user license agreement must be insane. Like, wow.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
I know.
The lifetime insurance thing is just the insurance.
I like
thing.
that also started as, this seems like a cool Kickstarter perk.
Right, it's like this
infinite just
because it
hole into
implies
space open.
because for it to be a thing that because you can't unring the bell once you sell your
Once
first
you've sold it to
insurance
anybody,
policy.
Yeah. Yep.
Then there's two things
Then
that
you're
need
in
to
the insurance
exist.
business.
Yeah, but also risk needs to exist, or you sold a thing that is meaningless.
Right.
So that's the thing, right? Once you because you're making the world from nothing, you invent the real potential of risk. Like risk is real if you sell an insurance policy. What?
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah. All right, so he goes on. Some people bought multiple ships, hundreds of multiples of ships, with the goal of selling these ships back to new players at launch once lifetime insurance was no longer sold. For a markup,
smart.
of course.
But
Go on.
is there a but to that?
He just keeps going. Like was said in episode 161, like most early access games, they're really suited to people predisposed to enjoying them, whether that's through playing previous games, lore, or genre. If you've been in the cult or group since the beginning, it makes a lot more sense, as you've already been brainwashed. Just kidding. Star Trek conventions are a thing. Is it really surprising that a space game with so much promise solely funded by gamers has raised $45 million? You say it's bonkers, but TF2 hats. Again,
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy.
It's weird when the game doesn't exist yet.
Yeah,
the
but I
weird
don't
part.
think it's nuts. I don't think it's crazy.
if you
Also,
do,
45 million.
It's a lot.
Yeah, but like if that's what the game grossed, like if this was a AAA game, that
But it's not out
yet with its design with its design promises.
It's just like a 10x multiplier over the other most
I know,
successful
I know,
games
I know.
that
Yeah.
don't exist yet.
I know, but it's also much more ambitious.
if you do actually read this, I have a final question. What is the joke about fucking effing ethnic Nick Brecken? I don't get it. Thanks, Clay. If you have more questions about Star Citizen, I can try to answer them, like Squadron 42 versus Star Citizen.
Nick Brecken ruined the podcast once by taking a job at Bethesda.
Yeah, congrats, Nick. Fuck Nick.
So I want to like share more of my own experience having read this guy's email, which this is a very short experience. But like when I went back to the site and tried to redo my purchase that I think I described last week as being confusing just because of the payment processing system we're using, it worked better this time. It just went through immediately instead of like it didn't before. But it was fucking crazy. Like you go to their, I talked about some of this last week, but the difference was that this is horrible to admit. So last week when I tried to buy the thing, I just bought the cheapest one, which is $30, or I tried to buy the $30 one plus the $5 add-on. But this time I bought one that was like $45 because I started getting into like, you can go to a page that's like ship stats and you can select them to compare like you do on like an actual
When you're buying a
website that will
computer
sell
or
you
something?
parts for things that are real. And like,
I do that at the car wash. I'm always like, give me the bronze or the silver.
exactly,
because I'm like, that's
so Sean,
$3.
you should look at the ship page because it looks like you're looking at like motorcycles to buy because they list like the engine type and the fictional manufacturer of the engine, and it's like these two have the same chassis, but as you see here, this one has more hard points, and you're just like, what the what is this shit?
And then you could see the dealers rolling you past the stickers.
Never get the undercoating. Never get the undercoating.
And like the engine, this is the craziest part. The engine is just for two ships that are the same model, but one of them is like the MR version and one of them is like this LC version or whatever. The engine is just two different strings of letters with a different manufacturer, but there's no way to know what that means because
you gotta go look at forums where people talk about their experience with these and they break down on you like what the service
some
costs.
of the stats are obvious.
They don't break down, do they?
No,
you don't think your fucking oil changed in your Star Jumper or whatever. Right,
I don't fucking. I wouldn't be surprised. Lifetime insurance, but like, that was the crazy thing was looking at some of the stats are obvious. It's like 8 shield points versus 4 shield points, right?
Yeah.
But then some of them are these totally subjective things of like, do players in this world know which engine manufacturers are better reputed? Like, do they know what these model names mean?
That reputation is. This hasn't existed long enough for those to be a real thing.
Yeah, but you know what's also crazy is I saw people talking about this on the Idle Thumbs forums, and people were saying like, yeah, I loaded this up and I started playing it and it felt fucking shitty, and it turns out the reason why is because I just bought the shittiest ship and it's just bad. Like, this is necessarily a result of creating a universe in which ships can cost anything from $30 to $10,000. Of course, the $30 one's going to be a piece of shit. How could it not be? What else is the value of the $10,000 one then?
If you own a $10,000 ship, maybe you should come to the office and we should fly around in it. Oh my gosh.
And I'm sure
Also,
that
you know what,
I'm sure that that's like an exaggeration. I'm sure it's still a fun game, but
Yeah.
like people were saying that in dogfighting scenarios, it actually made a big difference.
It fucking better.
Yeah, I know.
I raced this guy in my Volkswagen Golf.
Yeah, but
I
that's
lost. It's weird.
This is
Bugatti,
like,
you
this
fucking
is like a
scolded me.
weird thing that is evocative of kind of free to play, but not actually the same as how those games are pitched or feel.
No, this is actually
This is-
just
This is like a
capitalism.
hobby.
Like,
this is like
yeah.
a hobbyist pursuit.
Right? Yeah. No.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Yeah.
This is It's like
There's also, like,
you
I
can
mean,
say
we don't-
I have a boat, and then the guy's like, oh, you have a boat. Well, all right. This is the guy who also like rolls up with his 2 shadow yachts to carry all the stuff that he can't fit in his
Right,
main
yeah.
yacht. Like that's
There's so much to talk about this game, but yeah.
I know there really is. I really want to
Well, we
actually
play more and like we're,
figure
we
out
don't-
how to
this
play
is
it.
obviously
we also
gonna-
have a million more reader mails for next week
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it, so we can
yeah.
we can return.
Yeah.
we have to
when-
go play our video game now.
Yeah. When the glow of E3 has left and people aren't expecting us to talk about it.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah,
Talked about Grim Fandango.
yeah.
We have to talk about the mid-roll survey one more time before we go.
Oh, we do. So yeah, thanks for listening to the episode, and thank you already if you've been to podsurvey.com/thumbs and filled out the short anonymous survey there. But if you do that, you are entered to win a $100 Amazon gift card like every month for as
Yeah.
long as this thing runs. So you'll only be emailed if you win that thing. You will not be emailed for any other reason ever.
More
And you'll be-
importantly than that, you can let us know the types
Yes. It'll
of
help make the podcast
the types of
better
advertising
and
that you
add-
would like to hear or not hear on Idle Thumbs.
yeah, that would be a big help. So that's podsurvey.com/thumbs. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
If you have a survey,
If you have a podcast, please, guys, without your help, Idle Thumbs is going the way of the dodo. And by that, I mean the dodo case, a successful business run from San Francisco.
oh, where should I go? What's for the survey? What is it?
The pot-smoking guy who talks to ghosts.